Okay, let's start the project. And before starting anything inside Substance Painter, after setting display option in display setting, we need to bake MeshMaps. What is the MeshMaps? If I want to give you one single sentence description, it's the baking process. It's a saving information from a 3D model to the texture file. Okay? This is very simple. How Substance Painter can define for itself, this is the top part of the model, or this is the edge, or even we have detail in here or not. With the mesh maps and baking process, we can save all the information related to the 3D model that we are going to use inside Substance Painter. We can save it in a texture file, and that texture file, it's mesh map. Okay, so this is a very simple definition of mesh map. So let's go to the baking mode. Okay, this is the new mode that we have. There is some new window here, and we are going to take over of the windows very fast and very simple. And in each project, when we need to define, for example, the baking technique or something like that, we are going to explain those technique over there. But for now, for starting this project, we don't need anything, just simple setting and default setting inside Substance Painter. And in the most project, when you are in a beginner level, this is the final setting that you need. Okay, so we have the texture set list, we know that window, and we have mesh map bakers window. In this list, we are going to select the mesh map that we want to have. Okay, so the default is okay for us, and we just need to select bent normals. It's optional. If you have some problem during the baking, you can come over here and turn off bent normal, but please enable that, because it's going to help us to active an option inside shader that it could help us to have better display inside Substance Painter. So in this mesh map bakers, we just need to set some setting in common settings. Okay, so whenever you select something inside mesh map bakers, you can see the setting here, it's changed. Okay, so the common setting, we can define the output size. Okay, for example, 1K, we are going to increase it to 2K or 4K. It depends on the final texture export that we want. And we are going to export the texture from this project in 4K version. So it's better to have the maximum size of export in here in output size. Okay, so leave this option as default. And if you have a high poly version, we are going to explain that in the future. Don't worry about that. And let's explain you something here. When you have a 3D model with very, very, very high detail and dense topology, I mean, for example, maybe you have some model with 20 million vertices, okay? You not be able to use that model inside, for example, in a game engine, okay? So you need to create a low poly and lighter version in the vertices amount, okay? But in this way, you are going to lose every detail on the model. So there is one magical step that you can transfer all the data from that high poly version to the lighter version of that model. So in this way, we are going to bake the high poly version into low poly version and transfer all the data from the model to the material. Okay, and we are going to do that in the projects, but for here we just need to bake the data from low poly version, as we can see, to the low poly version into the texture. Okay, so in this scenario we need to enable use low poly mesh as high poly mesh. And if you don't enable this and don't upload anything here in the high poly definition section, the Substance Painter as a default option, it's going to enable that and consider the low poly mesh as a high poly mesh. That's it. And in this scenario, when we have just one single object or model, we don't need to define the cage, and we are going to explain the cage and all the data related to the bake, professional bake in Substance Painter in that project that we are going to bake. Okay, so we need to change the anti-aliasing setting to 64. Okay, and that's it. We just need to select the common setting, change output size to 4K or 2K, and change anti-aliasing to 64, and just enable Bench Normal. And now we can just press on Bake Selected Texture, and boom, everything is baked, and we can see what's happening. The navigation in this window is like navigation in 3D viewport of the Substance Painter. So let's wait, and after baking, we are going to continue our way. Okay, now all the mesh maps are baked, and we can continue our process in painting mode. So for checking the mesh maps on the model, and we can even use the 2D view for checking this part, we can press B on the keyboard or just use this list and start in mesh maps section. So this is the normal. The normal channel, as I told you before in the fill layer, it's like a playground for creating details and play with the details, but in a fake site. Okay, we are not adding real geometry inside this channel. We just play with the light and the direction of the light reflect and bounces to create illusion, to create fake detail. Okay, so when you bake high poly model to the low poly model and transfer all the data from high poly geometry model to the low poly, actually you translate the data from the model to the normal channel. So it's very important channel when we are creating or transferring data and detail. That's it. So this is the normal channel, and because we have just single model, and this model, it doesn't have any high poly detail on it, so the channel itself is just pure purple. Okay, and let's go to the next one, the word space normal. It's going to calculate the position of the model in the word space. So in this way, Substance Painter can understand what is the coordinate of the model in the world of the 3D. So let's go for the next one. The ID mask or ID color. It's very useful for creating and using in a complex geometry, because with this ID, we can create mask very fast, very easy. But in this project, we don't need that. So we can skip this part. Okay, now let's talk about the ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion in MeshMaps can give us the detail on the edges and in the concave area. And it's very important map during when we are texturing in Substance Painter and when we are baking the details or the mesh maps, because with ambient occlusion, we can pop up our detail and make it the realistic one. Okay. So whenever you came over to the ambient occlusion and you see the black area, don't worry, it's not a bug or issue, because ambient occlusion, it's actually soft shadow channel, and it's going to be calculate similar to overcast lighting from the sky on a white surface. So this is the reason that we have shadow in the surface. So it's going to be issue when you see, for example, the shadow in here, and there is no intersection with other subject or other object in the scene. Okay, so in this way you can figure out there is something wrong inside the model or inside the UV. But in here, everything is okay. Now we can continue to the next channel. Okay, let's go for the curvature. Curvature is a map that it's going to define for Substance Painter, okay, this area is edge or this area is surface. So with this map, we can define the edge of the model. Let's go for the next one, the position. It's very important map and channel in the mesh maps, because with this position, we can understand, and actually the substance painter can understand what is the front, back, top, left, and the sides of the model. So we can use it in the masking and texture generation. Okay, so the next one is thickness. Thickness shows the thickness of the 3D model. Actually, when you see the white surface in the thickness, it means you have a lot of thickness inside your model. And when you see the dark area in the thickness, you can understand there is some close surface together and the thickness is less than the white surface. So let's go for the next one. Height is a displacement, and because we don't have any high poly model, we can skip this channel. And the bent normal is like, if you combine the ambient occlusion and the normal channel together, you will get bent normal. And in this way, we can increase the quality of the visual in the viewport with the bent normal option in the shader setting, and we are going to enable it right now. So this is all the data that we need to know about the mesh maps to start our process. Let's enable the bent normal in the shader setting, okay? And as you can see, the light calculation, it's very, very better compared to disabled version, okay? So let's go for creating the first layer and starting our process. Okay, now let's start with the first fill layer. I'm going to create a fill layer and call it base layer. And in this layer, I'm going to use a dark gray, almost dark gray in a base color. And I'm going to bring up the metallic to 1. Okay. And let's decrease the roughness. And now let's talk about a new concept inside Substance Painter. So in the fill layer, we can right click and we can use, for example, filter, level, fill layer, paints layer, or generator. So we can add some sub layer to the main layer that we have in the selection. Okay. I'm going to use a filter for this layer. So when you add something to the layer, it's going to affect on just this layer. It means when you use some filter in here and load some filter, the effect is for the base layer. And the order of the layers section, it's like from down to top. And exactly, we have the same order here in the sublayer. It means when you have some sublayer, the top layer is the high priority for the showing in the viewport and showing the data. Okay, so this is the layer order that we have in the layer section and sublayers. And now I have a filter for the base layer. Now we can load a filter in properties. We can choose filter from this list, or we can go to the asset library, as you can see, and we can go to the filter in here and use whatever we want. For example, I can see these filter are related to the metallic options. And yeah, for example, matte finish brush linear is a good filter. And let's use this one. So I'm going to click and drag it in here. I can release it in the filter, or I can use the search and, for example, search linear and use it in this way. Or even I can remove the filter itself and just click and drag the filter on layer icon here. And as you can see, it's automatically create filter sublayer and apply brush linear to the filter section. So let's close the asset library and we can see the effect is on the layer. and we can control the filter should affect on which channel. For example, I just need to have color, but it's not affected on the color. Okay, so let's go for the height. It's not affected for the height. Roughness, yeah, maybe. Metallic, no, and normal. So the brush linear filter just affect on the normal channel, and we can control the effect of the filter when we go to the normal channel, and we can play with the opacity in the normal section. But each filter comes with several parameters. For example, in here, I have brush intensity. So it means if I decrease the value, it's going to give me a nice and clean result. And we can play with the rotation. For example, let's rotate it 90 degrees like this. Okay. And let's play with the scale. And that's it. But I want to keep the filter on this section, just this section. So how we can do that? We can create another fill layer, and I'm going to call it brush linear, and just move this filter to the brush linear layer, and let's turn off all the layers. Okay, and now I'm going to add a black mask. So whenever we want to control something, we need to use mask. Okay, so let's add black mask. That's it. And now I'm going to use paint layer. And with the paint layer, I can go to the polygon fill and use UV chunk and select this area. Okay, we can go to the mask, and boom, everything is okay. So we are ready to go and continue our process. Let's go back to the base color channel, and let's go back to the base layer, and I'm going to increase the roughness value, and boom, this is better. Okay, but I want to use another filter in the base layer. For example, I'm going to add a filter and load another matte finish filter. For example, we can use matte finish rough, and yeah, it gives us very perfect result for the metal. And let's play with the scale grunge, brush intensity, brush warping. Okay, scale, and we can play with the random seed, as you can see. And let's keep the normal channel, just normal channel. Okay, that's enough. But we have matte finish rough for the base layer, and we have brush linear for the brush linear layer. But there is some mixing effect on this area. What if I want just have brush linear inside this area? How we can provide this kind of effect? We need to go to the normal channel and change the blending mode from normal detail blending or normal map combine to the normal itself. And boom, there is no sign from the down layer. So in this way, we can control the data with the blending mode. Okay, please do the task and be familiar with the blending mode, because we are going to explain each blending mode that we are going to use, and after a while you can understand the basic concept and using of the blending mode. But when you study the blending mode itself and you just increase your knowledge about that, you can do so many creative things inside Substance Painter. And actually, it's a common knowledge. It means if you learn blending modes, you can use it in Photoshop, in Substance Designer, or any other program that you are going to work on a shader, texture, and this kind of stuff. So it's okay for now. And we just understand we have some filter, and matte finish, it's going to help us to create some surface detail. Okay, so we are going to use this kind of filter a lot inside Substance Painter, and we have so many filter here, and we are going to use them. Don't worry. Okay, so let's go back to the base color channel, and let's add some variation for the roughness. Okay, so I'm going to create roughness variation number 1. I'm going to recreate effect of the water dripping and stain effect. Okay, so let's add black mask and let's load a fill layer here. So in the fill layer, I'm going to use grayscale and just search leak. Okay, now we can use, for example, this one, grunge leak large. Okay, that's okay. Let's increase the tiling, for example, to 3. Okay, maybe we should increase the tiling to something like 6. Okay, and we can play with the contrast and balance. And we can change the projection, for example, to triplanar and decrease the tiling. Okay, and we can place the box and fix the map where we want. But I'm okay with the UV projection, and let's check another grunge. Okay, for example, grunge small. Let's change the rotation to 90. Okay, it's good, it's very good. But let's change the rotation to 270. And yeah, it's perfect right now. The tiling could be on 2, for example. Yeah, that's it. Let's go back to the layer itself. I'm going to keep color, roughness. That's it. For the color, maybe white amount is good for this layer. And for the roughness, let's increase the value, for example, to 75. Now we can see the effect, but it's too strong. Please remember that for surface detail, we need to create so many detail. And we must, or we should just pop up the main detail. And if we want to have so many strong detail on the surface, our material is too complex for reading, and it's not good. In the visual way, we have complex material with the complex data, and the user, when it see the material on the surface, he or she cannot understand what's happening. But when you control the surface detail and keep all of them very low, very slightly, and just pop up or 1 or 2 detail to tell a story, in this way you can convey your story to the viewer or anyone who see your work and material. So let's go back to the fill layer. Now we have a balance, and we can play with the balance. Okay, yeah, it's so perfect. And now I can play with the opacity for the base color. Let's decrease them to, for example, 10. Let's go back to the layer. Let's play with the roughness too. I think 0.5 is good. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to add another roughness variation. And let's add a black mask. And again, I'm going to add a fill layer in the mask. And let's load another fill layer, like grunge stains leaky. Okay, and let's bring up the tiling to 5, for example, like this, or maybe it's too much for this one. Let's try 3. Yeah, I think it's very better. Okay, let's go back to the layer itself. I'm going to keep color and roughness. And for the roughness, we can increase it to something like 0.7 and give a dark gray color. So it's good, but I want to create some variation. So I'm going to add a paint layer here and change the blending mode to subtract. It means when we paint any white value inside this paint layer with the paint tool, we can remove the grunge data because we are going to subtract. Okay, so let's go back to the brush and let's test. Yeah, it's work. It's work, and we can do that. Okay, so we can go to the mask by holding Alt and click on the mask. We can go to the mask mode for this layer, and let's go to the library and search dirt. I'm going to use dirt brush, and let's go here and remove some detail from the mask. Okay, we can increase the brush size and remove this detail. We can go back to the material mode with pressing M on the keyboard. And I think the lighting condition, it's not good. Let's go and change it. I'm going to the display setting, environment map, and let's load, for example, this one. Yeah, it's better. Let's load another one. No, it's not good. It's not good. I think it's much better. And let's test this one. Yeah, I think this one is better. We can see the detail on the surface. Okay, so let's keep that, and we can bring down the opacity. And yeah, let's remove some detail from the surface like this to create a unique detail and shape for our layer. Okay, that's enough. I'm okay with that. And let's create a fill layer, another fill layer, and I'm going to call it color variation. The color variation, the purpose of the color variation is to create some variation in the color, but we can use other data in other channel. But the main point is to create variation in the color. We can continue our process in the next video, and see you on the next video.